Ladies and gentlemen, we march today past the memorial to the International Brigade. Brave souls who could see what would happen if you let extremists survive. The threat of fascism did not die with the end of Nazi Germany in the Second World War. I was recently asked to speak in Barcelona. In Catalonia, like here in Scotland, they're considering their future and if they should be an independent country. One thing that they're having to deal with that we don't have to is the fact that adults over the age of 40 remember what it was like to live under a fascist dictatorship. They are dealing with the fear that remains. So we must always remember and remain vigilant. In the UK, the Tory Lib Dem policies are not just bad for the economy, they're bad for everyone. They create the breeding ground for anger and resentment that preys on the weak, the disadvantaged and the disenfranchised. The policies of austerity and cuts have created the conditions that are right for bitterness, intolerance and growing xenophobia. More than ever, we must be vigilant and never let our guards down. We owe it to those who fought fascism in the 30s and 40s. We owe it to those who lived through it in the 60s and the 70s. We owe it to this generation and we owe it to the future generations. We must never let fascism rise again. In the words of the International Brigade, they will not pass. No passerán! Ladies and gentlemen, it's not enough though for us to just say what we do and don't want. We need to actually show that there is another choice. We need to shine a light into that darkness and show what that alternative is. And you are doing that today. Today, we reject the threats. We reject the fear. We reject the hatred that is the language of the extremists and the fascists. We are showing them what a city can do when it comes together. We are showing them Dundee together. And we celebrate today and we shout out to all people who will embrace peace and who will embrace a modern, inclusive Scotland. This is Dundee. This is our city. Enjoy it and come and join us. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your day. Thank you.
I was laying a wreath at the National Submarine Memorial in Dundee this morning. It's important to remember that. The consuls from France and the Netherlands and Russia were there. The representatives from the many countries whose submariners in the Second War sailed out of Dundee, many never to return. And when we faced that challenge of Nazism in the Second War, a toxic ideology, and came together to combat that, we didn't ask what your religion was or what colour your skin was. We simply knuckled down and did the job that needed to be done. And that's what you're doing today, because we're faced with another toxic ideology, one that does not celebrate diversity but seeks to punish and harass minorities based on their religion or the colour of their skin. And as John's just said, we reject that, and we reject it entirely. This is an inclusive city. There is no race or ethnic problem here other than that which is imported, like today, from time to time, and that's the way we need to keep it. So I'm glad there are so many people turned out today to say no to the toxic ideology that seeks to separate on the back of colour or religion. There are plenty of other people wanting to speak, and there are more musicians wanting to entertain you. So I'm just delighted to be here. delighted to represent the SNP. Happy to say I stand against racism and fascism of all sorts, and good luck with the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of the Scottish Unemployed Workers Network, and we're here not just to listen to music, but also to say no to the SDL and their far-right friends. But who are the so-called Scottish Defence League? Some of these are just people who are looking for a fight, and if they didn't find one through the SDL, they'd find one somewhere else. And some clearly just enjoy playing the bully. But we have to admit that some of those people who might be tempted by far-right rhetoric probably have quite a bit in common with many of us in this square. We've all been let down by a system designed to concentrate Britain's wealth in the hands of a small rich elite. We've seen many of the things that we've come to take for granted be closed down and disappear. Most notably jobs and job security, but lots of other things too, like cheap transport, local shops and pubs and community centres. And we've been consistently let down and abandoned by all the mainstream parties, every one of whom has succumbed to the lure of get-rich-quick free market economics. In a hostile system where those in power seem oblivious to the impact of their actions, many of us seek the solidarity of community links and try to strike back at the forces ranged against us. Fascism and sectarianism take these positive responses of solidarity and resistance and twist them into their opposite. Instead of bringing together the whole community of people suffering from this economic system, the SDL and their friends try to limit community feelings through ethnic division and turn one group of people against another. And instead of directing people's anger against the political forces that are holding us all back, they encourage their members to let rip at their fellow sufferers. Meanwhile, of course, those in power are left to laugh all the way to the bank. And however the media tries to hype the Olympic circus, neither this nor any other entertainments can hide the huge economic inequalities in this country. Inequalities and poverty that is destroying homes and communities. Inequalities on which fascism thrives. And fascism, prejudice and discrimination don't only hurt the people to whom they direct their attacks. They're designed to divide and destroy effective resistance to this inequality. And that's why the Scottish Unemployed Workers Network has a special duty to be here. Instead of calling for collection of unpaid taxes and redistribution of wealth, people are being encouraged to turn their anger on the worst off in society. Prejudice is invoked so that anger at bankers and the system behind them is deflected onto benefit recipients. Instead of fighting for investment in more jobs at decent wages and against a system that prioritises massive profits for the few, fascism persuades its followers to blame their fellow workers for competing for the few measly jobs available. It's an old trick, and I want to quote from a pamphlet written by Jewish socialist immigrants way back in 1895. They ask their British fellow workers, and I quote, whether it is not rather the capitalist class, which is constantly engaged in taking trade abroad, in opening factories in China, Japan and other countries, who is the enemy, or whether it is not rather their duty to combine against the common enemy, the fight against us, whose interests are identical with theirs. We're here not just to fight against fascism, but to fight for a better, more equal system. Thank you.
Okay folks, I can hear the twist, they're tuning up. They're going to be with us very, very soon. Oh, nice!
It's in the past.
Thank you very much.
All of a sudden it's got very hot. Roasting. I hope you love you as well.